So we are on Daf Lamed Zayin Amud Aleph, about halfway down. Vatanya, v'Eirez lav Maisa Kederahu. Is Eirez not Maisa Kedera? Meaning, do you not make ala michya and a mezainis on rice? Vatanya, Amalahen. Vatanya, Elohen Maisa Kedera. The Gemara is going to list all the different types of Maisa Kedera, chulents, stuff that you have to say a Bermin and Mezainis and ala michya on. What are they? Chilka, Tirgis, Sailis, Zoriz, Arson, V'Eirez. Basically, Rashi explains these are all different ways you chop up the wheat grain. You cut it into half, you cut it into thirds, you cut it into quarters. Sailis means it's fully floured. Or Eirez and even rice. All these things, when you cook with it, it's called a Maisa Kedera. And you got to make a Bermin and Mezainis and ala michya, not a Bermin and Fashes and Shakal. So, says the Gemara, how money? Who? So you see here clearly the Eirez, rice, you make a Bermin and Mezainis on. So why till now did they assume that on Eirez you don't make ala michya? Hamani Reb Chaim ben Nuri. This brisa that says Eirez is a Maisa Kedera, that's Reb Chaim ben Nuri. The Tanya, who's this Reb Chaim ben Nuri? The Tanya. Reb Chaim ben Nuri Aimer. Eirez min daganu. Rice is a type of grain. And therefore, since it's a regular dagon, it's a regular grain like wheat, barley, oats, spelt, rye. Rice is up there with them. If you let the rice become chametz, let it sit in water for 18 minutes, what's the din if you eat on Pesach? Kares, like regular bread. Having rice is like you ate bread. Maybe that's why Ashkenazim and Machmir on kidneys. I don't know, Sfadim eat rice on Pesach. We're chayshish for this. No, we're not chayshish for this. We don't eat kidneys for other reasons. But rice, says Reb Chaim ben Nuri, you chayv kares on it. If you made rice matzahs, you ate a Pesach, just like you can have spelt matzah, rye matzah, wheat. It's regular, it's like any other grain. So maybe that's this sheet over here. This opinion that the Eirez is Maisa Kedera, that's Reb Chaim ben Nuri. It's the same opinion. Avar Rabbanon loy. Chachamim argue with Reb Chaim ben Nuri. They say you can't be matzah with rice. If you eat rice and Pesach, you're not chayv kares. So ask the Gemara, Rabbanan, right? Do Rabbanan not agree with Reb Chaim ben Nuri about rice? Sorry, Vatanya, sorry. You chew wheat. Guy decides he's hungry, he has raw wheat. You eat it. You can eat wheat. What bracha do you make on wheat? You have a grain of wheat. You say bari priyadoma. It grows in the ground, bari priyadoma. You don't say bari b'nemezainis. Tachna va'afa, you grind the wheat and you bake it. You make a flour, you make bread, you make donuts. Ubashla, but then after you baked it, you bashla, you cook it in water. It's like the inverse of a bagel. A bagel you first boil it in water, then you bake it. Here, you baked it, and then you have like a nice piece of bread, and you put it in your soup. You make a nice kishka, and you put it in your chulent, right? So what bracha do you make on that bread? So it depends. If the slices of bread are still visible in your chulent, in your soup, you see the bread slices. You see the bread slice, you say, it's like regular bread. What bracha do you make after you eat it? You have to bench regular brachas of mazon or bais in the varach, do regular benching. If you can't see the bread anymore, it's indistinguishable. The bread slices, you boil it in water for 6 hours, 3 hours, whatever it is. It absorbs tons of water, and it just looks like oats. I don't know. It just looks like a dice porridge. What bracha do you make? You make bracha of barim, and it's very nice. You don't say hamaitzi, you say hamzainis. You say ala michya. You don't bench properly. So, okay. Now the second part of the brisa goes like this. What happens with the same thing, but not with bread, but with rice? If you chew rice, you're not chewing wheat. That's if you chew wheat. What if you're chewing a rice grain? You have a piece of rice, you chew it, you eat it. What bracha did you make on a grain of rice? Tachna, you grind the rice, offer, you bake it, you make a nice bread out of this rice. Then you cook the rice in water. Even if you see the bread slices, the rice bread, you say, and what bracha do you make after the seif? You make ala michya. So there's a difference between the bread that's made out of wheat or bread that's made out of rice. If it's made out of rice, so even though on both grains you make a bari priyadoma, if you have rice grain, you make a bari priyadoma, and if you have wheat grain, you have bari priyadoma. But if you baked it and then you put it in your cholent, you put it in your soup. So then, if it's wheat and you can see the slices, you say but if it's rice, what do? You say bari b'mezainis and bracha achmin shalish. So the gemorah asks, see, Mani, who is the author of this brisa? Who is this? Who said this then? If you can tell me it's Yechim ben Nuri. If you can tell me this is Yechim ben Nuri, and he says, remember your chayv kares on Pesach, if you eat your rice bread, the rice is regular grain. So what should you say on this rice? You should be saying, you should bench properly. It treats it like bread. Why do you say you should give it the full, all three brachas, proper benching. Ela, who is the author of this Mishnah, of this brisa? This is Rabbanan, this is not Rabbi Yechim ben Nuri. And therefore, you see in this brisa that the din is, you say, Baimin Mezainis and Bracha Achas Min Shalish, Tiyufta the Rav Shmuel, Tiyufta Kasha and Rav Shmuel, that said you don't say Baimin Mezainis on rice. So according to this, we have a Mefurish brisa that you say on rice, Bayrei Minim and Zainis, and not like Rav Shmuel. If you remember, Rav Shmuel said two things. They said, Kol sheyesh by mechamesh deganim, and Kol shehu mechamesh deganim. You only say Bayrei Minim and Zainis if it's one of the five. Wheat, spelt, oats, rye, barley. Only in those five you say Bayrei Minim and Zainis, but on rice you don't. Here we have a brisa that says you say Bayrei Minim and Zainis, and we've established that it can't be Rabbi Yechim ben Nuri, because according to him, you have to bench. You have to say hamaitzi. So it turns out, it looks like there's three opinions over here. According to Rav Shmuel, rice, you say shakol, or you say adome. It doesn't even say what you say on rice. Besides no Bayrei Minim and Zainis, and definitely not benching. According to Rabbi Yechim ben Nuri, it's all the way the other end. It's like regular bread. You say hamaitzi lechem and aretz. But this brisa, the Chacham, this is how we paskin. You say Bayrei Mine Mezainis. That's what we say on rice. Says gemorah, we're in the fifth white line, Lamed Zayin with Aleph. Omamar, Hakresim Esachito. We're still in the same sugya. If a guy chews wheat, what bracha do you say? Bayer Priyadoma. Mavachal Bayer Priyadoma. Vatanya, it says in the brisa, Bayer Min Israim, who created all sorts of Zraim, seeds, like kasha, Rabbi Yehuda, Harabanan. One opinion is Rabbi Yehuda, and the other opinion is Rabbanan, the Snan. Al Yiraka is Aimeh Bar Priyadama. Chacham say on vegetables, Bayrei Priyadama. Rabbi Yehuda, Aimeh Bayrei Mine Deshayim. Rabbi Yehuda says you say Bayrei Mine Deshayim, he made all sorts of Deshayim, Desha, some type of growth also. But you'll notice that, so who says Bayrei Mine Zraim? So the idea is that you see Rabbi Yehuda gives each one a separate bracha. He says for this, for vegetables you say Bayrei B'Deshayim, and for wheat you're going to say Bayrei Mizrayim. So it's not a kasha. But according to Chachamim, you say for everything Bayrei Priyadom. Okay, let's continue. Omar. Back to rice. We're getting back to rice now. Omar, Kaisim is a guy chews rice. He eats rice. Again, we said a kaisim. Why say oichel is? If it's not the normal derech, we say the gemorah says a kaisim, as opposed to oichel. Oichel means it's a regular derech chila. This is what people eat. This is how you do it. Kaisim means you're eating rice, but it's not the normal way to do it, right? So a kaisim is a guy is eating rice. What bracha should you say? But if you cooked it, you make a barbin as we've established before. But if you're eating the rice, a grain of rice, raw, whatever it is, you say barbin adama. Tachna, you grind the rice. Afa, you baked it. And then you decide to throw it in your soup, a bashlai, if you could see the slices of this rice bread, what should you say? You say barbin mezainis. What bracha? The after bracha you say bracha achas ben shalish. You say ala mechia. Ask the gemorah vatanya. Is this true? It says v'levasayf v'lei klum. Afterwards you should say nothing. Meaning v'levasayf v'lei klum doesn't mean you don't make you don't say any bracha. It means you say barbin nefashes. Why do you say v'lei klum? It means you don't make any of these achas ben shalish or shalish. You don't have to say any of the three. There's a separate bracha. Okay, so here it says you say ala mechia, and we have a brisa that says after you eat rice that's been baked and cooked, what do you say? Bari nefashes. And you'll notice that's how we paskin. We have rice. The beginning you say bari nefashes, and after you have to say ala mechia, you say bari nefashes. So Amar of Sheishes like kasha. This is not a kasha on the brisa. It's not a contradiction. Hora Gamliel, hora banan. One of them is Reb Gamliel. Reb Gamliel says, say, Broch achas min shalosh, you have to say ala mechia. But Chachamim say, after rice, you say, Bari nefashos. The Tanya Zaklau. The Bryce says, this is the rule. Kol shu mishivas aminim, any one of the shivas aminim, according to Reb Gamliel, a big chiddush, Reb Gamliel says, Reb Gamliel loimesh shalosh brachos. Any one of the 7 minim say shalosh brachos. Meaning, eretz chit asara, gefen tein, rim, shem, and advash. Any of those things, you have tamarim, you have to say bracha ve'en shalosh. V'chom ma'imrim bracha, shalosh brachos. Rabbi Gamliel says, if you have any of the shivas aminim, you had a pomegranate meal. You sat down, you had rimline, you had pomegranates, you had dates. What bracha should you make after you have a whole tray of dates? Shalosh brachos. You have to bench, according to Rabbi Gamliel. Full benching d'oraisa. Any of the shivas aminim, according to Rabbi Gamliel, you eat it, you chayv and brichas of Muslim d'oraisa, bench. No, you don't have to bench. What do you say? Bracha achas me'ein shalish. You make ala mechia. We said it's a machlekes if this is deraisa, darabanan ala mechia. Umaisa b'Rabbi Gamliel. Okay, the story time. There was a story. What happened? Rabbi Gamliel, who said, Rabbi Gamliel said you have to do proper benching, right? There's Canaan. Rabbi Gamliel was sitting down there with the elders. They were sitting in Yerichai, they're eating. And they brought in front of them dates. So what did you do? They ate the dates. So Rabbi Gamliel turns around to the great Rabbi Kiva and says, go ahead, do Birchas Hamazon, bench for us. He was mechabed him with Birchas Hamazon, the great Rabbi Kiva. So Rabbi Gamliel, if you remember, he was the Nasi. He was the Nasi we had before, a few dafim beforehand, the whole machlaikas he had with, who was it, Rebbe Elazar, became the new Nasi. But he tells Rabbi Kiva to bench on the dates. Remember, he said they had a date meal. Go ahead and bench, right? So what did Rabbi Kiva do? Kofa to Barach Rabbi Kiva, bracha achas men shalish. So what did Rabbi Kiva do? Instead of saying Rabbi Barach, he said ala michia. He said ala michia, not like Rabbi Gamliel, but like the Chachamim hold. You have to say ala michia. Oh, Rabbi Gamliel. Rabbi Gamliel didn't like it. He said Akiva. Why are you getting involved in this machlekes between me and the Chachamim? Until when are you gonna get involved in this? Admasai, meaning like you're always sticking your neck out. You're always getting, you're always picking sides. Why are you doing this? Amalei Rabbeinu, he said to my teacher, my master, Alpha Pishato Mekain, even though you say this, and your friends say this, I'm going to say it's a little bit of a shiloh what that means. The Matan Rabbeinu, you've taught us, Yochid v'Rabim, halacha k'Rabim. When there's a Yochid, a Das Yochid, you're one, and there's Rabim, halacha k'Rabim.
Not a Das Yochid, you just said and your friends.
So l'chayra, what it means is I looked up like how different Farshim explain this. That they mean you say this, v'chaverecha ayimim kain. They say the opposite. That's how someone understand it. You're saying one thing, you're Yochid, they're Rabbim. So Yochid Barachim, you go with the Rabbim. But at l'chayra, that can't be pshat because, and I think it can't be pshat. I'm not sure if that's pshat because he doesn't say Yochid Rabbim, Malach Rabbim. That's something else. That's the Yochid is nothing when there's a Rabbim. It's Daya Achas against the Rabbim is nothing. Right? If everyone says one thing, the Das Yochid says something, so we're not going to that Bechlal. Yochid Rab, Malach Rab means you always go with the Rive. Like if you got 2 say this and 10 say that, you go with the Rive. So he doesn't say here that Das Yochid is nothing. We're going with the Rive. He says the Yochid Rab, and the implication is that there's more that hold like that. The Chacham all hold like that, and you and a couple of your friends and your Talmidim maybe say like this. So it's a question. It's a question. What does this mean? The lashon, the implication of the language is it says v'chavrecha oimrim kain. They also say like you, not v'chavrecha oimrim kach. If it would have meant that they say the other thing, it would say atoim kain v'chavrecha oimrim kach or v'chavrecha chalkim. So yeah, what you're saying is you're saying it, your friends say it. You're saying good. Your friends say the same thing, but there's a rive. You taught us to go with the rive. What do you want from me? It's not my fault. You taught me to go with the rive. That's the implication over here. I'm not sure. Take a look at the last line of Rashi. I don't know what this means. Rashi says Kofat Birech. He jumped and he benched lacharehen after them. After who? After what? It means bracha achrayna. Of course, we're talking about bracha achrayna. Like I'm not sure what's Rashi saying. He jumped behind them. I don't know what Rashi's adding over here. I'm not sure. Okay. So Reb Yehuda Aimer Mishmai, and then Reb Yehuda said in the name of Rabbi Gamliel. Again, we're going back to this thing. So Reb Yehuda said the name of Rabbi Gamliel, Koshu Mishivas Aminim, anything which is part of the Shivas Aminim. So Eretz Chit Asar, Gefetei Rimon, Shemen, Dvash, V'loi min Dagon, but it's not wheat or barley. V'loi min Dagon who, or if it's min Dagon, if it's wheat or barley, V'loi also pass. You have wheat or barley. You didn't make bread out of it, you made a porridge. You made a barley soup. So what bracha you make? Rabbi Gamliel, Aimer, Shalish brachas. What do? You have to bench, Brachas Hamazon. So again, Rabbi Gamliel holds that any one of the Shivas Minim, and it's not wheat or barley, l'chayra means you made bread out of it. All dagon you didn't make into bread. Rashi says, take a look at the top Rashi. V'lai min dagon. Shebemin dagon, if it is dagon, wheat or barley, yesh chiluk shemase pas hakol moed yishlach achav gibur brachas. That's what he means. It means if it's min dagon and you made it into bread, then everyone agrees that's what you said brachas hamazon for. But he's arguing only in the case of the chutz min dagon. Now Rashi's saying that doesn't mean that by min dagon you don't bench. Of course, min dagon you bench, but there's no machlekes in that case. Okay, so min dagon v'lo pas. You didn't make it into bread. So what's the din? You say shalish brachos. You bench. You have to do the full brachas hamazon. V'chomayim. What's the din? You say ala michya bracha achas men shalish. So. And if it's not from the Shivas Aminim, v'loi min dagan, and it's not wheat or barley, you're going pas oirez v'duchan, You have bread from rice. You make bread from duchan. What's duchan? Millet. Rabbi Gamliel Aimer, bracha achas me'ein shalish. You make, according to Rabbi Gamliel, you say ala michya on rice. Chacham saying you don't say ala michya. We already said like doesn't mean you don't make any bracha afterwards. It means you don't have to make ala michya. It means you say bar nefashos. So what do we see from here? You see from here that by rice there's a machlekes. You say bar nefashos, or do you say ala michya? Right? So b'may kim to Rabbi Gamliel. So you've gone ahead and you said that the previous brisa was Rabbi Gamliel. Ema Sefer Dereisha. How are you going to explain the end of the first part of the brisa that says Im eina prusas kayamais betchila? If the bread is not visible in your soup, eina prusas kayamais betchila. You don't see the slices of bread in your soup anymore. It's all disintegrated. So what bracha do you make on it? Afterwards, bracha you make. You say ala michya. If it's disintegrated, money. Who is this? Who said this then? Who says that then in the brisa? Rabbi Gamliel. If it's Rabbi Gamliel, it can't be Rabbi Gamliel because he says hashta akrisovas vadaisa. Even on dates and on porridge, Rabbi Gamliel give a brachas. You have to say even on dates and porridge. You say a full. Benching, you have to do the full gimel brachos. So you may not process kayamas a buy. So you're going to tell me if it was once proper bread, and now you just can't distinguish the bread; it falls apart. You don't have to say. In other words, even on porridge, you start off with dough, with flour. You made porridge into it. Says Rabbi Gamliel, full benching on porridge. So of course, if the bread disintegrates, why should that not be? Why should that not be? Of course, you have to. Why should you say ala michya? So it can't be Rabbi Gamliel. So who said that didn't the brisa? Ela pshita. So who is this? Obviously, Rabbanan. It's Rabbanan that says over here that you say bracha and shalish. Yachi kasha Rabbanan. So you end up with the machlekes Rabbanan for rice. What's a machlekes with rice? Do you say after the bar nefashos, or do you say ala michya? What's the after bracha? Bar nefashos. Oh, here he says v'lei klum. Ela Rabbanan. Yeah, it's Rabbanan. V'tani gabi eirez v'levasayf ein v'rachal v'lei klum, and change the gears over there to v'sayf ein v'rachal v'lei klum. Instead of saying that, you say ala michya afterwards. The girsa is you say afterwards v'lei klum, meaning you say barei nefashos. Why do you not change the girsa over here and say it's Rabbi Gamliel? Whatever. It's easier to go that way. Says the gemorah. Amar Rava. Hi riyata. So this riyata, Rashi's riyata is chovetz kedera, which is some type of bread in a pot, flour, oil, and honey. You put it in a pot and you make some type of thick bread, right? Hi riyata the chakloi the mafshi bakimcha. If you put in a lot of flour into this concoction, right, into this mix, the mafshi bakimcha, you put a lot of flour in. The first bracha you say is mezainis, it's flour. My timer, the smideika, the main part of this dish is the bread, is the flour. The mechuzah, but the same dish they make in mechuzah, town up down south, up north, I don't know where it is, Bnei Krach. Russia's people live in the farm. Sorry, it's not a place. The mechuzah is Bnei Krach. People live in the villages. The loy mafshi beikimcha. Sorry, the Krach is a city, no? Yeah, people live in a city, they don't put a lot of flour in, I guess they're richer there, they don't put a lot of flour in. Even though there is flour in it, you say shakol, because of the oil and the honey, you say shakol. My timer, why do you say shakol? Duvsha ikka, the main part of the dish is the honey. So you see, if you put a lot of flour in, you put a little bit, according to this opinion, you say shakol. Vahada, then Rava says, Vahada Marava. Rava looks like changed his mind. Vahada Marava. So Rava says, no. Actually, idividi, in both cases, what do you say? Where there's a little bit of flour, where there's a lot of flour, what do you say? Why? To Rav Shmuel. He's going back to this Rav Shmuel we had. The Amrit Tavai, they both said, Kol sheish bai mechamesh saminim, mevarach hanav bai minim mezainis. Anything that has in it, Kol sheish bai, if any dish has in it mezainis, what do you say? Anything that has in it 5 minim, you say, bai rei minim mezainis. Amar Yosef, Hai chavitza. Chavitza is like some type of sticky dish that the crumbs stick together. These pay pirun kazais. You've got these big chunks of bread that are the size of an olive. So what bracha do you make in it? The first bracha is hamaitzi. But if shalish brachas, afterwards you say full benching. So you cook this chavitza. Rashi says it's ke'en shlnaikuk. I don't know what that is. You put bread, big bread pieces into your soup. You take bread, you put it in your soup. You say Maitzi and Brachma Shelash. Now the leizba perur in kazayis, if the crumbs aren't a kazayis, they're not that big, they're not the size of an olive. So b'tchilim bracha ben mezaynais. Your first bracha is mezaynais. L'v'sayif bracha achzmein shalosh. So depending on the size of the crumbs, if it's big chunks of bread, you say Amaitzi. If it's less than a kazayis, you say Bayrim and Mezainis.
Covers croutons, for example.
Croutons, yeah. Amar Rav Yosef, says Rav Yosef, na minillah, the Tanya, it says, how do I know this? Where am I getting this idea from? I'll tell you where. The Tanya. This guy sacrifices, he brings his korban mincha, his bread sacrificing, pizza. A guy brings his menachas, he should bring a seh shechiyanu. Not lon leichlon, you're eating your bread, the bread. You say, Amaiti lecha min haaretz. V'taniola, and regarding though the korban mincha, the gemorah says, "V'kulam paisin kazayis." It has to be a kazayis. Amalei Abaye ela ma'ata. So it is a kazayis, and you're saying, what bracha you say? Amaitzi. Even though it's crumbs of a kazayis, you say amaitzi, and even though it's been cooked. Amalei Abaye ela ma'ata. The Talmud de Rabbi Yishmael, the Amar Porcha not shemachzin lesalton. He says, Talmud Yishmael says, you can make it crummy until it becomes seiles, till it becomes mamish flour. Hachinami, according to that shita, loy boy brucha mitzvah charetz. If you've made it into crumbs, now you boil it in a pot, you should say mitzvah charetz. Why does the Brisa say you say mitzvah charetz on your crummy korban mincha? Maybe according to Rabbi Yishmael, you don't say amaitzi. It says all of these things. If you ate it on Pesach, if you ate a kazayis, what's the din? Kares. V'matzahu al yezbei chavasa b'Pesach. And if your korban mincha is made if it's ve'im matzahu, if you didn't let it become chometz, you didn't let it cook for more than 18 minutes, you can eat it on Pesach. So hachav ma'askinam b'sha'arson. We're talking about here where you made it into like a dish. You took your ground kemach, you made it into one big thing. You made it into one big piece. It says in the end, to be your matzah, you got to eat it within 4 minutes, whatever it is, 3 minutes, 4 minutes. It says you ate them. You ate the crumbs. If you made it into like one big knowlege, why did it say sha'achlan? You ate them. So the implication is that it says sha'achlan, not sha'achlai. The implication is it's still a bunch of crumbs. Here we're talking about a case where you're right, there were small crumbs, but it came from a big loaf of bread. And now you took some of the small crumbs, you ate the small crumbs. Since you still have the big loaf of bread, interesting, so you say it's considered that you've still got bread here. It's not just crumbs. B'ba melechem gadol. Take a look at Rashi. It's the fourth narrow line from the bottom in Rashi. B'ba melechem gadol. V'nishim min alechem shalai nifras kulai. You didn't cut up the whole loaf of bread. Aval im nifras kulai. If you cut up the whole bread, lo yichash v'nim psisin. Once you chopped up the whole thing, then that bread becomes irrelevant. That's no longer a hamaitzi. You don't say hamaitzi on it. It's no longer bread. Take a look in the top taisis over here, in the second narrow line. So remember, the gemorah wants to bring a rye from menachos. The guy brings a mincha that you take your bread, you cook it in water, you still say hamaitzi. Take astaitis in taima. How are you comparing the crumbs in a carbon mincha to the crumbs of in your knowlege in your soup? In other words, there's different. One is fried and one's boiled. So he says, since you fry it b'shemen, since you deep fry it in oil, it's the same thing. If you deep fry it or if you cook it in water, it's the same din. That's how he understands Rashi. Take a look in the. Okay, no, we're not going to see the next one. What's the time? We went way over time, so we're going to have to wrap it up over here. Thank you very much. Guys, have a wonderful day.